Estás viendo Canal América, televisión dominicana para el mundo.
A Time for True show is sponsored by the office of Dr. Bernard Fialkoff, a periodontal, dental implant and laser specialist in New York City, for over 40 years. Dr. Fialkoff was honored by the International College of Dentists and Pierre Fauchard, and received the Presidential Lifetime Humanitarian Honor from the White House. Call us at 718-229-3838.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your fears.
Welcome to A Time for True show. I'm your host, Dr. Bernard Fialkoff, and it's a pleasure to have you back with us again today. And today we're going to talk about putting game back into life. You know, life can get very stressful. Sometimes it can be overdone, but we want to bring games into life, and we want to bring back the enjoyment. And today's show is about that, and it's about a man who experienced a miracle in his life, and also another man previous to him that gave him that miracle, who actually was an immigrant from Canada and invented an unbelievable game. And we're talking now tonight about Hector Perdomo Sr. There you see him on the screen next to Mr. Naismith, president of the Naismith International Basketball Foundation. Hector was born in Guayama, Puerto Rico, and raised in the boroughs of Boston. He and his wife have 2 children, and he has been involved in basketball since 12 years of age. And there you see Hector. Working with William Bell, Hector made history in the small town of Kissimmee, Florida, coaching the Kissimmee Wildcats and becoming the first team from Kissimmee ever to be invited to the AAU National Tournament. He was invited to become part of the Naismith International Basketball Foundation in 2000. The Naismith Foundation board members are ambassadors to the game of basketball, which the foundation's grandfather, Dr. James Naismith, who invented basketball in Springfield, Massachusetts, back in 1891. There's Michael Jordan. The foundation protects the integrity, moral values, and dignity for who, what, where, when, and why the game was invented in the first place. Working to help and motivate at-risk inner-city youth in reaching their full potential through education and community participation, Hector's foundation educates on good sportsmanship, integrity, building team camaraderie, and most importantly, something that we forget about in life, always having fun. Mr. Perdomo goes by the personal mantra that if you believe in love and what you do, you can and will achieve, as long as you have faith and honesty. Nothing can stop you but you. An engineer, if we can, I'd like to bring up live President Hector Perdomo of the Naismith International Foundation. And let's bring him up on the screen with us and bid him a warm hola from A Time for Truth. Hello, Hector, all the way down in Florida, right?
Yes, sir.
¿Cómo estás? How you doing?
Gracias a Dios, estoy muy bien. ¿Y usted?
I'm doing good. So let's switch back to English for all our viewers. And you and I could speak, you know, you being Puerto Rican and me being Cuban. But, you know, it's a pleasure to have you, my Latino brother here. I was going to ask you, when you were a young guy, what were your dreams?
My dreams was, number one, to get out of the area I lived alive, number one. But when I was a little kid, I always remember when I had on my my Marine shirt, and I would look up in the sky, and I would see them birds flying in the sky. And I was like, man, I would love to be a pilot. But I didn't know what it was. I just wanted to fly the plane. I didn't even know the name of what it was to do. I just seen it in the sky. And I always wanted to be on above the earth and just flying high and doing something. I never envisioned where I'm at today. I mean, honestly, I didn't start playing basketball till I was almost 11, 12 years old. And the very first I even seen a basketball, it had nothing to do with the game. It was my neighbor who was a little heavy-set African-American. I seen him coming down the stairs, and I had just moved from one of the boroughs in Boston into Chelsea, which was one that was on the other side of the river. And when I seen the guy come downstairs, next thing you know, I seen the ball. All of a sudden, the guy just took the ball and he just started going in between his legs and walking up the street with the ball like this. Boom, back, boom, back, boom, back, boom, back, boom, back. I was like, I want to do that. And then I got to the basketball court, and it just was like, that was what I guess I was meant for, because unfortunately, my dad, I mean, he was too busy trying to provide food on the table because he was a single dad. And I didn't know much what schooling was, you know what I mean? So I didn't really finish high school, you know what I'm saying? And I would rather go play basketball than go to school. And I didn't realize that if I would have went to school, I could have gone to college and maybe got a scholarship or whatever, but at least I would have known the path. You know what I mean? 13 years old, one day I was on the basketball court, and that's when my life changed forever. There was this one girl coming up the street, and I looked, I said, wow, she is beautiful. And she had on a white blouse, blue jeans. She had black hair. And I just said, wow, she was beautiful. And then as the day was going on, we were playing. She seen me. I had on some nice green shorts. She liked them green shorts, you know what I'm saying? And the girls told me, hey, would you like to take Caroline, that's her name, to the bus stop? I was like, Nikki, I don't got no money. She said, don't worry about it, we got you. Well, when the girls give me the money, we get on the bus, because she lived in Lawrence. That's another borough in a suburb in Boston, Massachusetts. So she gets on the bus, and before she gets on the bus, I was like, well, just to let you know, I'm going to marry. And she just started laughing, because when I asked her age, she told me she was 18. I didn't even think about it. I was like, I spit out 17. And the crazy thing about that, I was only 13 years old, and she was 18. You know, and that was how it went through the summer. And then when the winter came around, this was back in the 81, 82, when there was no cell phones, no beepers. They just had that long cord that when it was your turn over, you need to pull the cord so your parents could make a phone call. And lo and behold, when it was time for my birthday, which is in October, she bought me a cake, and we was at her friend's Nikki's house, and they seen 17 candles. Then they asked her, Caroline, why so many candles on the cake? What's that cake for? Oh, Hector, it's his birthday, he's gonna be 17. Doc, them girls are still laughing till this day. They told Caroline, that guy's only 13 years old. And they all knew that because I was the youngest out of all the guys. Because all the guys were older than me. You know what I mean? All the guys were like 3 or 4 years older than me. That's why I didn't go to school, because I was siempre era entremetido. You know what I mean? The nosy one where he shouldn't be. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, that being that type of person got me in trouble when I was young. You know, and I met her. I told her what was going to happen. we went out for a couple of years, and one day she had a big argument with her mom and said, "Look, let's just get married." And we got married, and we got married on October 19th, 1985. You know, I was 16 going on 17, and the judge looked at my dad. He said, "Are you approving this?" And my dad said, "Well, I got to do something with him, or else something's going to happen to him." Well,
Hector, I got to say that you at the beginning of the show, you talked about looking at the sky and flying high and looking down. Well, I got to tell you already, and I know we got some other stories to get into, but that's quite a story already. Amazing, beautiful love story. And you know, you're flying high already. So I want to ask you a question. How did you become coach of this Kissimmee school? How did that transpire?
Well, I had kids. I got two boys, and the one's name's Hector Perdomo Jr. He was born in 87, so he's like about 35, 36 years old. And the other one is Albert Alexi. He's 31. And I was living in Kissimmee. We had to find something to do for the kids, so we went to the local YMCA. And we signed the kids up, and the coach, her name was Coach Ann. She was just a volunteer mom. She really didn't know much about basketball. And I looked at her, I said, "Would you like some help?" And I started coaching then. And we were pretty good. We had a pretty good team. I mean, one of my team one time scored. They were, I think, 7 years old or 6 years old, and they scored 72 points. And the other team only scored 14. And I tried to stop the parents. Like, look, I'm not trying to push them to score. It's just it was during the Christmas break, and I told the kids, "Hey, these guys are gone. We got to make up for them. So let's work hard." And next thing you know, man, I thought these kids were doing fast breaks before they even knew what fast breaks were. The next thing you know, the score is 7. If I told them to slow down at halftime, and then during the third quarter, they slowed down, but fourth quarter came out, they just lit it back up, and they could have had over 100 points if I would have let them. But I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done that. That's not fair.
Amazing.
You don't disrespect the game.
And then now your team, the Wildcats, tell us about what it was that you instilled in them that got them to go so far. Because, I mean, here you are in a city, or we call it a town, never gotten there. What was it that you, and there was another man with you, right? Another coach?
Yes, sir. Well, the first year I was there, I was by myself. And then the next season came Coach Bell. And Coach Bell, he's from the urban area, as we say. You know what I'm saying? And then we talked, and if he didn't win the championship, I won the championship. And we did it about maybe once or twice. And the third time, I said, "Dude, let's just put our teams together." And there was a new league getting ready to start. It was called Florida Basketball Volleyball Association, FBVA. And we went in there, and we ran that place, man. Our kids were 7 and 8 playing against 9 and 10s, and we didn't lose for 2 years. And then we went to my 9 and 10s were playing against 11 and 12s, and they were only 10 years old. And we ran that league for like 4 or 5 years. And then I don't know what happened. I think I had to move. I moved to St. Cloud, and I separated. But during that time, Leonard and I, we were coaching. We were doing AAU. We were the first to go state in the Central Florida area. We were the ones who brought basketball to this area. You know what I mean? Back in the day when AAU was real pristine, real tough. You had to be extremely good to get even invited. You know, so we were pretty good. We did that. I mean, when we first got to state, we had playing against a team called the Atlanta Celtics. And the Atlanta Celtics at that time, they came in. They were one of the few teams that got sponsored. They all had Adidas. Everything was Adidas. So when they walked in the gym, my kids were like starstruck. They were like, so they were beating us in the first half by like 50 points. I mean, we just came practicing 3 hours a day, 4 days a week. I mean, one of my players, his mother loved me so much because I think he lost 10, 20 pounds because they were running so much. Okay? So we go into halftime. I tell this kid, look, either you guys do what we're supposed to do, what we practice, or we're taking our bags and we're leaving right now. Well, Doc, we come back, and that second half, that coach, he didn't know what happened. I mean, we didn't win the game, but we only lost by 10.
Wow. Wow, what
Yeah,
a story. So now, I want to ask you something, because I know it's a very interesting story of how you came to be on the Naismith Foundation, and I thought it was an amazing story. So I'd like you to share that with the viewers.
Well, like I said, I had moved to St. Cloud, and I was living in Kissimmee. And when I moved to St. Cloud, we had a house. And I used to be a cook. So I was cooking, and there was a brand new restaurant that opened up. It was called NBA City, which was part owned by the NBA and part by Universal Studios. Well, this happened to be on Labor Day weekend. And it was a normal weekend for me. I'm a young man in my early 30s. And I don't know if people have ever been to Universal, but they got moving sidewalks. Well, I'm coming off the parking lot, and I see this older white guy. He was carrying a big old trophy in a gold briefcase, and I seen him struggling, so I didn't bother him. Well, he must have seen my hat, because that's the only thing that could have said NBA City. All of a sudden, as I pass him over my shoulder, all I hear is, "Excuse me, Sonny, you know where NBA City is?" I turned over, I looked at him, and said, "Sure, sir, follow me." Well, the third time I came back, I said, "Look, mister, you're going to make me late. Here's my chef's coat. Let me get what you were carrying." And Doc, remember what I told you, the award. Mr. Naismith was carrying the award like I carried a cell phone, okay? Well, young man, 30, Latino, you know how we are, full of testosterone. Well, I go to grab the award. I almost drop it. Sucker weighs over 50 pounds, Doc. Wow. It was solid pewter and solid brass. Ian was carrying around like it was a paper doll. Okay, well, I came to find out later that when he was driving, he had a 50-pound dumbbell, and he would just sit there curling because he would travel the country, and he would sit there curling with the dumbbell. So I go ahead and I take that. I give him my chef's coat, got that. And as we go there, we still stop 5 times. And I never in my life have always gloated about my team saying how good we were. You know what I mean? Because I feel that you would be disrespecting the game. But that one day, something told me to tell him, "Hey, just let him know who you are." And well, we still stop 5 times. So when we finally get to the podium, to the entrance, podium, I take the award, I put it on the podium, and I give her. I mean, he already had the briefcase. I told him, "Dude, you didn't carry the briefcase. I'm carrying this award." So when we get there, I put the award on the thing, and I'm going to shake his hand and get my chef's coat. And he goes, I go, "Well, sir, my name's Hector Perdomo." He goes, "Well, I'm Jan Naismith." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, son, my name is Ian Jan Naismith. My grandfather invented the game of basketball." I said, "What?" He goes, "Would you like to see what you were carrying?" And I was like, "Sure. I ain't got nothing else to lose." Well, when he opened the gold briefcase, it was a copy of the original rules that went for Sotheby's for $4.3 million in 2010. And he closes that. We exchanged phone numbers, and we were linked ever since after that.
What a beautiful story. And now you're president of the Naismith Foundation. And what I want to ask you, because I see the heart that you put into everything you're doing, how does your group work with inner city youth?
Well, we want to bring an event to the world, and that event is called Naismith's Basketball Birthday Bash. And what that is to educate everybody about who, what, where, when, and why basketball was invented. But in reality, with all this mental anguish and all these bullying and all this stuff that's going on with the world, what people don't realize is that basketball was the best therapy session in the world, and people don't even know about it. What we're going to do is we'll educate you about the game, but we're going to educate you. We want to see what's inside. You see, what Dr. Naismith lived by was to be strong in body, clear in mind, and lofty in ideals. Okay, when you're strong in body, that's everybody knows that. But when you're clear in mind, that's the hard part, because you can't see that. You can see when somebody's strong or somebody's aggressive, but when they're hurting inside, you can't see that. And that's what we want to. That's what we want to attack. We want to get in there. We want to help them, make sure they don't make no ill decisions. Like my best friend, he unfortunately became a statistic, and this is what's really amped me up, because it's sad that now his grandkids can't have a great coach, great granddad, great brother, father, uncle. You know what I mean? And with the event, it will be done every year, and we'll be able to do it around the world. It doesn't have to be in a particular location, and we'll be able to educate people about drugs, financial literacy, but most importantly, get in the mind. Let's get in that mind. Let's work with psychologists that I got just waiting to go and bring and attack this epidemic.
Right. So what you're saying is to like get them stable, extroverted, and secure, so they don't make those wrong choices. You know, I laud you that you're taking this sport that's such a great sport, and you're helping these kids, because you know a lot of times they go wrong, like you said, and that's a shame. So it's important with what your group, what you're doing. And you know, I was noticing when I was researching you that you work with a few different Harlem Globetrotters, like Larry Gator Rivers,
Yes.
Robert Zorro Hunter. Tell us about how you work with these Globetrotters and how you met them.
Well, it's there was a gentleman by the name of Don Rudiger, and Don Rudiger was a good friend of Mr. Naismith, and Don was the president of what's called Youth Basketball of America. And one day I'm in his office, and all of a sudden I see a Harlem Globetrotter, and my eyes just lit up. You know, my eyes just lit up. And his name is Frank Shake and Bake Streety. And Frank Shake and Bake Streety became like my uncle, you know, and he and I, we talked, and we did little clinics, brought him to events, and he introduced me to Gator. He introduced me to Zorro. And when I met with Gator and Zorro, we had events up in Savannah. It's called, oh gosh, I forgot the name of the park, but it was a park that real important place that we would go with Gator, and we had an event. And from there, we just kept continuing talking and talking, and they're like my uncles.
They're good. They're good people. You know, it's funny because coming up next week, next Thursday, you know, right in your city, Orlando, where you are right now, where the World Conference of Mayors that Johnny Ford runs, you know, you're going to be at this game, this Harlem Globetrotter Drug-Free World Conference of Mayors game. How does that feel to you?
Feels round. Feels round. I'm excited. Great to see these guys. A great cause. You know what I mean? And be able to listen to people, encourage people. You know what I mean? Make people smile, because people don't realize, you don't know if you could just make one person smile. You never know how that could impact them. You know what I mean? You got all kinds of mayors from around the world, around the United States, and you never know. I mean, I will always be accessible to them, and I don't like we are. We're Latinos. We're Hispanic. We can speak and help the Latin community if they can. And I mean, it's not hard to say hello. If you have any questions, I'm here. You know what I mean? Whatever way we can, and to make the community better. Because what people don't realize, the number one, the suicide rate, the number one ethnicity is the Hispanics, and they're from 10 to 24 years of age, and choice of death is a handgun.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell us, you have an event, I think, planned for December this year, and I think it's called the Naismith Basketball Birthday Bash. Where's that going to be, and what's that all about?
Well, it's very amazing how things come into play. Uh, the World Conference of Mayors just happens to be talking to Eatonville, and I've been introduced to one of the influencers in Eatonville. They're one of the builders of Eatonville. They're the ones who's going to be remodeling it. So we're going to be able to come in and talk to the kids and do an event called the Birthday Bash, and that's what we're going to figure out this week. We're going to find a location, bring in the festivities, bring the young men and women in. I have a group. It's called TopYouthMotivators.com. A gentleman by the name of Kyle Husting is I don't know how I found him, and his story is so powerful. It's when you hear it, it's going to be like wow. Because one thing I tell everybody, the decisions you make today will shape your future tomorrow. And Kyle says you're one decision away from a different life. And Kyle's story is he was right behind Tiger Woods back in the 90s. He made one bad decision, and he went from being on Hawaii's TV for winning golf tournaments at a young age to Hawaii's most wanted. Hawaii is a real crystal meth based area, and he became real bad. He got busted. He did his stint. He came out, and now the governor of Hawaii promotes him. You know what I mean? Because he's coming around and he's telling the story to the kids. Make sure you know what you're doing. Stay in school. Get your education. I mean, watch the decisions you make. Don't go by what everybody else does. You know what I mean? That's part of his story. It's a very powerful story.
Well, you know what? That's what I think is so interesting about you. How, you know, you look at things, you don't ignore them, but you try to find a positive way. And I can see why they made you president of the Naismith Foundation. And, you know, it's funny how life works. I wouldn't be surprised if Mr. Naismith that day, when he saw you, saw something in you before he ever told you and was playing a little game with you to see what you would do, to see what kind of person you were. He may have even been looking for a future president, and here you are now. So, you know, we're getting near the end of the show, but I want to ask you a question because, you know, I run this foundation for a drug-free world, and we've been talking about, you know, what to do. What are your feelings about what's going on in the country and what we need to do as parents, as leaders, for our kids, for the future of our country?
Very, very important is always be a sponge in life and educate people what they already know of. I mean, things are different now. I mean, people talk about drugs in the 70s. They're not the same drugs as they now in the 2000s. There's no such thing in fentanyl that was back in the 60s, 70s, or 80s. And that drug is powerful now, and it's killing a lot of people. You know what I mean? I say education, the idea you have about that notepad is extremely powerful because everybody has a digital device. You know what I mean? You got a digital device. That's how these kids know how to connect. They forgot what it is a good old-fashioned call or a hug. You know what I mean? Everything's through a digital engagement. And the more we can engage with them digitally, which is another concept that I have, which is called esports, which we're going to bring everybody together, which is the beauty about esports is that if you can pick up a control pad, you can play. You don't have to be the biggest, the strongest, the baddest athlete, the fastest, the tallest, whatever. As long as you can pick up a control pad and have fun, we can work with you. We can make you be a better person. And what we want to do is with drug-free world, drug-free world is educate. The more you get it, the more you keep putting it in their face, they're gonna see it. And with that idea with the notepad, these kids they're gonna eat that up alive. And once you got on the notepad, you'll be able to have more opportunities on there, like counseling, a phone number. You know what I mean? whatever we can make it to be better for them, so that they make better decisions.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? The time flew by because we had such a great time. And, you know, thank you for being on the show.
I'm truly, truly honored. Thank you for your time, sir.
You know, it's a pleasure to know you. Looking forward to meeting you live down at the World Conference of Mayors, Drug-Free World, Harlem Globetrotter, and put at Naismith Foundation basketball game in Orlando next Thursday for those viewers who want to come at 3 p.m. Thank you for being on the show again. And for those of you watching, check out the Naismith Foundation. See how you can help them to reach kids, make them safe. The same for Drug-Free World, for the Harlem Globetrotters. And for those leaders out there, we salute you. Have a great night. We'll see you at the next episode of A Time for Truth show.
This show was sponsored by A Time for Truth Foundation Incorporated as a community service.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your feet